Good morning or good evening, depending on which side of the prime meridian you're watching me from. Welcome to the Wholesome Show. So, I know I have been absent. This has become my thing. I am ashamed, but aren't you glad to see me? I'm glad to have me back. Anyway, so today I'm here to talk about gentle parenting and the effects of using the cane on a child. So, first of all, what is gentle parenting? According to my understanding and what I have been reading and from my experience, I would define or simply say that gentle parenting is a form of parenting where instead of thinking about always constantly or impulsively thinking about correcting the child's behavior, you seek to understand what is the reason behind that behavior. Does gentle parenting means that you should not hold your child accountable? No, but gentle parenting seeks or calls us parents or teachers, because teachers are second parents, to not only seek to always want to correct a child's behavior, but to also look inwards into ourselves and look at why we're being triggered by that child's behavior. So I had been doubting gentle parenting, and I'm not a parent, but I am a teacher, so I am a second parent. And this is my first time teaching apart from my teaching practice, and had started doubting whether this gentle parenting, gentle teaching thing is even necessary or works, or is this just that I'm applying things I've been reading online. But I have somehow like three or four major evidences to prove that kids need more love more than they need correction or punishment, especially when they are young. So one, if you have been a fan of the Wholesome Show, the first video I did, there was this cousin of mine and she was like 8 years old. She should be 9 right now, and walikuwa wamekorofishana na dada yangu ambaye ni mkubwa pia. So sister yangu alimkelelesha. And then I was there, I was washing utensils. This is just a brief. If you'd like to get the whole story, go back to my first video. So I went to console the kid, because after that confrontation, alienda kwa bedroom akajifungia, and I found her crying. And so I asked her what is wrong, and the first statement she uttered from her mouth was, watu hawanipendi. And it was sad to see a young kid, an 8-year-old girl, saying watu hawanipendi. So I prodded further, and someone told me that was really a good thing, because most people, especially our parents' generation, wouldn't want to understand why a kid would say watu hawanipendi. They would obviously, for example, my mom, she said ni kwa sababu ya tabia zake mbaya. But as I prodded further and I asked her, why do you think watu hawakupendi, the kid went ahead to say hata mama wangu wananichapa, things like that. So that is just one thing. Again, if you want to get the whole tea, it's not really a tea, because it's not even something to laugh about. But if you want to get the whole video or the whole story, go back to my first channel. But that is just one evidence that kids that age do not take being beaten as a correction or as discipline, because for kids, they just need love. And I'll tell you why. So next story number 2, or evidence number 2. My sister has a kid, and she's like 11 years old. 11 months, not 11 years, 11 months. So one time I'm from work, and I find her, she's trying to feed the child, and the child isn't feeding. I think pia mtoto alikuwa na homa hizo siku, and she had not been feeding well for quite some time. But this is what happened. So my sister was forcing the kid, 11 months old, kumkelelesha, kula haraka kama nikuchape, kula haraka kama sijui nikufanyie nini, things, meza ya chakula, shouting, just the same way we were raised by our parents, and we would think that is the normal way of raising a child. And honestly, I started doubting, because in my head I was like, because I even told her, sasa unakelelesha mtoto mdogo kama huyo hata haelewi ni nini unasema. So, and then I took a moment and I wondered, am I being too, because I'm not a parent, maybe I'm not, maybe sijavaa hicho kiatu cha uzazi, pengine naropokwa tu. But now listen to this other half side of that story that day. So I went into the sitting room, because I was in the kitchen, and my sister went into the bedroom. And so I took the initiative. I went with my own food, and I had nilikuwa nimeketi, so I was eating, and then an idea came to me. So this kid is not eating, why? Maybe she doesn't want to feed, maybe she's full, or maybe she's not feeling the food you're trying to give her. Because this is a kid, she doesn't even know how to talk. How else would she say, I don't want that food? And I think that forcing kids to eat somehow shows them that they are not allowed to say no. And when they grow up, right now we don't see it, but when they grow up, they have difficulty saying no, setting boundaries, because no, saying no or reacting to something negatively, or always made them being punished, kukeleleshwa, not loved. And so we grow up thinking that saying no isn't good, even if it's something we really need to do. So long story short, nikaanza kucheza na mtoto, namfanyia I eat my own food, and then I'm doing so, and then I try to feed the child. So surprisingly, this kid, at first she was like but then as I continued doing that, eat my own food and then do and then give it to her, she started coming for the spoon herself. She started coming and opening her mouth herself, like and that is when it dawned on me, really, kids do not need kukeleleshwa or kuchapa ndo wasikie maneno. Gentle parenting really works if you have the time. And then after some spoonfuls, it's like the kid aligundua, hey, this is a trick to make me eat, so akaanza kutoroka. Then I changed the tactic. I started playing. So hatembei, yani at that time hakuwa anatembea mwenyewe, alikuwa anaogopa, so alikuwa anatambaa. So akitambaa namkimbisha, then she runs. Then when I hold her, I put her on my lap, I feed her. Na alikuwa anakula. So that day alikula some spoonfuls compared to how my sister was doing it. And I'm not blaming her. I know raising a kid is not easy. Kushinda na mtoto sio kazi rahisi, but I hope you get the perspective. Sometimes we think that kukelelesha mtoto au kumchapa ndio itamfanya akuwe mtiifu, but honestly maybe we should try this other side, because we have not. Also applying that to teaching. Now this is that, as I've told you, gentle parenting is about seeking to understand why the kid is behaving like this, instead of impulsively wanting to correct that child. So before that, kids at young age, because I've read that when the kids reach 4 to 7 years, that is when their brains come together to start like putting sense into things. Lesser years than that, mtoto haelewi societal ways of of behaving. So unapigia mtoto kelele, hajui ameangusha kitu, hajui hata ni nini anafanya, yeye ako tu hapo ana enjoy, And honestly, we are killing kids' self-expression when we shout at them or beat them into behaving. So I am now coming back to applying gentle parenting into teaching. So I told you I am new to teaching, and I also started doubting, am I really doing the right thing with these kids? But let me tell you one incident. So kulikuwa na this boy and a girl, I shall not name them. So they had been given an assignment, ya performing arts, and so the group leader now is the girl. Alikuwa anaambia huyo kijana ata play role ya husband. So me, when I was in class, the girl was crying. Oi, hey. Yeah. Kuteleza sio kuanguka. So when I was teaching, I think it was social studies or Kiswahili, the girl was crying, and people told me, and the other students started to tell me, "Teacher, so and so is crying." So I told them, let us learn first, I will deal with her. So after that, I called the girl kando, nikamuuliza, why were you crying, what was up? Akaniambia, I am the group leader kwa hiyo kazi ya performing arts, na nimeambia so and so atacheza role ya husband, lakini hataki, amenigombanisha. So I'm like, okay, so I hear you. Let me talk to him first. So I at a different time I called the boy, sasa kando, nikamwambia, so and so ameniambia alikuwa analia kwa sababu anajaribu, yeye ndio group leader na anakuambia kitu na unakataa na unamkelelesha. So I had the boys side of the story, na akaniambia yes, true, because I'm not comfortable playing that role, and alikuwa anashinda akiinsist na mimi nilishamwambia staki. So I listened to him na nikamwambia, well, okay, kumbe pia yeye akona makosa. So I just told him, one, I get that sometimes you are uncomfortable doing things and people should be able to respect that, but she's the group leader and you're not supposed to shout at her even though she has pushed it so too far. But I understand that you're uncomfortable playing that role. I went ahead to try to understand why he was uncomfortable playing that role, and then I also explained to him how it is important sometimes to do some uncomfortable things, because if we only do the things that we are comfortable with, we might never experience growth. And told me, well, I've heard you. So then on another time I called the girl again and told her, nimeongea na so and so na ameniambia na kulingana na story yake pia wewe ulikuwa on the wrong. So before I even like finished this, she told me, surprisingly, and I was surprised, she told me tumeongea na yeye, amekuja tukaongea na yeye na tukaombana msamaha na tuko sawa. And I was like, ooh, just go back to class. Hallelujah. So honestly, compared to beating, you know, you'd beat a child, for example, in that instance. For example, if I was a teacher who rushed into beating or disciplining, and I have the girl side of the story and the boy kumshautia, and I went and took the boy and beat him. So obviously hapa ningekuwa nimechapa huyo kijana kwa makosa ambayo si yake. And coming to that, so this girl, and this is another story, this girl told me of how when she was new in that school, she was beaten for makosa ambayo haikuwa yake. So she had said, me, I don't fear teacher so and so because hakai mtu mbaya, you know. And then she was called to the staff room. She was beaten. So I asked her, how did you feel? She told me bad. But did you forgive them? She told me yes. And that is not the first time. I also had another incident of a guy who was refusing to get punished for makosa ambayo si yake, and then the teacher took that as kiburi. So honestly, beating is not the solution. Another story will be why beating is not the solution. So for most of us, because that is how we've grown up, tumelelewa kwa hiyo setting, so we always think that beating works. But for me, what I think and what I've observed is that beating only seems to work because it suppresses the child's expression. So if you beat me today, now you've aroused fear in me, and actually some people wakichapwa wanaendelea kuwa more rebellious. So people say nimeongea na mtoto lakini asikii, because gentle parenting is not the easier way out, you know, and people like easier way out, and that is why gentle parenting, for example, maybe that is why gentle parenting gets a bad rep, because it requires you to be patient, it requires you to do the inner work, because honestly without the inner work, gentle parenting comes off as a chore and a heavy one. But we use beating because nikimchapa leo atanyamaza, but you've killed that child's expression. Another thing about gentle parenting is breaking the generational trauma, using bad terms to describe students. For example, kondo wewe, mbuzi wewe, you know, things like that. It might look like a joke, but somehow it is getting registered in their subconscious minds, and they're going to believe wao ni kondo. So yeah, that is all I had for you today. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Oh, before I conclude, now I asked the students' opinion about kuchapwa, and well, all of them, a big number of them told me it doesn't make them feel good, and one actually mentioned that it lowers their self-esteem. So you might want to rethink parenting or teaching. You don't have to do it the way it has been done, because, and okay, now another thing, I've told you that gentle parenting is also about looking inwards. You are the parent. Most times kids copy what we do, so we sometimes expect kids to do a lot, yet we're not doing the same. For example, there's this conversation going on in the staff room, and this teacher was saying how most people do not like confessing that when they are wrong. And I told him, me, I do. Because honestly, if I wrong you, even if you're a child, I'll tell you, I'm sorry, I realized I wronged you, I am sorry. But now, the same teacher will beat a kid up mercilessly for not saying the truth, for not telling the truth. You see, there's no balance. It does not make sense. If you want someone to do something, or to do something better, then make sure you're practicing it. Do not tell a kid. They were also discussing how no one likes kusoma. You're just here because ni kazi. And if a course is brought here in school, most people will say, we don't have the time. But we put so much pressure on the kids. Soma, sijifanya homework, mbona hujamaliza homework, we should try at least apply empathy. I'm not saying, and please note that gentle parenting is not about not holding kids accountable, but look within, turn inwards. Do not just seek to correct a kid's behavior and wewe mwenyewe you have issues with yourself. Yeah, that's all I had for you today. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Tell me your opinion about gentle parenting and use of the cane to punish a child. Does it really work, or does it only suppress the kid's expression? Bye. Thank you.